Out. Our first outdoor Mayor's Night in history. Thank you. We were supposed to, I hope you don't mind if I wear sunglasses. I really have trouble seeing outside, especially in the sunlight. We were supposed to do an outdoor one at the charter school at Hast, and it was like over 100 degrees that day, and we moved it indoor. So we were supposed to do 2 outdoor ones this year. This is the second one, and Mother Nature is cooperating. So thank you for coming out. We are having technical difficulties with the traveling mic. So unfortunately, for the first time in Mayor's Night history, we will also have a station mic here right in the middle, which is unfortunate. So if you want to ask a question, we'll give you the option of either having Michelle read off the question, and if you want to extrapolate on it, you could go up to the microphone and expand on it, okay? Unfortunately, we don't have the traveling mic tonight, so we're going to have to make do with the stationary mic. And I want to remind everybody, being outside, sometimes you could talk. We are filming live right now on Go Hammond TV. We also put it on demand on Go Hammond TV. It doesn't cost you anything to watch this again. But sometimes when we're indoors, we could catch the echoes of your voice, but being outdoor, we're not going to be able to catch your echoes. So we ask you, if you want to ask a question, please either make sure Michelle's talking in a mic or yourself goes up to the mic to ask the question. Okay? We do have a few questions, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I want to introduce the 1st District City Councilman, Councilman Mark Kowinski. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. It's great to see you out here. What a great venue to have this in. I, like you, am suffering with the sunlight a little bit too, so feel free to wear a cap, glasses, whatever it takes to make it more comfortable for you. Real quick, if you need a pit stop, it's behind the building, and there are walk-in restrooms that are very nice, and they're available to you. And a reminder about our neighborhood meetings. The next one for Whiting Robertsdale Crime Watch is September 13th at 6:30 at Calumet College, usually in room 200. There are monthly meetings that usually go an hour to an hour and a half long, and they're really informative, and a lot of people are there to get answers or take your concerns. And then also the Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association at the American Legion on Goslin at the other end of the district their next meeting is September 27th at 6:30 on Goslin, and those generally run till 8 o'clock in a similar format where you can address your issues and get some answers and get what's current in the district. So without further delay, let me return this back to Mayor McDermott, and we'll get on with the 1st District meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the department heads, and I'm going to remind the department heads that we are going to have to share the microphone because the roving mic is not working. So we'll go ahead and start over here, Chris.
Hi, Chris Campbell, Information Technology.
Courtney Sazwa, College Bound.
Sharon Daniels, Personnel.
Jeff Smith, Fire Department. Brad Moore, Park Department.
Alexius Barber, United Neighborhoods, Inc.
Beth Jacobson, Economic Development.
Kelly Kearney, Code Enforcement.
Gary Gleason, Street Department. Scott Mitchell, Sewer Department.
Kathy Kazmerzak, Recycling.
Carmen Paniagua, Hammond Housing.
Tom Jansen, Sanitation Department.
Brian Poland, City Planning.
Ron Novak, Environmental Management.
Stan Dostotny, City Engineer. Tom Daverton, Chief of Staff.
Bob Lindy, City Controller. Mylan Krasinski, Port Authority.
Phil Talon, Planning and Development.
Jim Callahan, Inspections Department.
Brian Miller, Police Department.
Ed Crusoe, Waterworks.
William O'Connor, Corporation Counsel.
Michelle Torchiani, Park Department.
All right, there you are. That's the department heads. I want to point out that we don't normally have the light stands here for Mayor's Night Out. We're getting ready, nor the porta potties. We're getting ready for the Friday night concert here. The last of the Triple Play concert series. We have Cheap Trick playing here on Friday night along with Night Ranger. So for those of you that may be interested, there are a possibility of one-night tickets for this show only. So that's coming up. It's $30 this Friday. Last week they had Foreigner play here with Survivor and Nicole Jamrose, and there was about 3,000 people sitting where you are right now. It was a very beautiful night, very successful night. And since most of those 3,000 people already paid for their tickets, I imagine they'll be here plus whoever buys the $30 ticket. So it's a great time. I hope you can make it out here. It's not the same as the festival and where we don't charge for parking in this. And it's a ticketed environment, so it's sort of a roving atmosphere as far as you can go to the beer garden, and if you get carded and you get a wrist ID, is that correct, Tom? A wrist ID, you're allowed to walk around the facility, so it's a lot different than the festival. It's a lot more free. Anyway, hopefully you can make it. Mylan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Gates should open sometime between 5 and 5:30, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start out with Bunkertown.
Right.
And that should be right around 6:30.
That's a Hammond band.
Yes, it is, local band. And we're hoping for a great night. The next night, Saturday, we'll have the movie, the sing-along for The Sound of Music.
Who's putting that on?
We are, Port
Nice.
Authority. Yeah.
No, I mean the play.
No, it's a movie, Mayor.
Oh.
And it's an interactive type of a movie.
I know what's going on, I promise.
We thought Mylan was going to be doing the...
No. Sing Edelweiss,
I thought it was like a toll theater type of thing.
No, it's a movie out
Okay.
here. So at about 7:30 when
great.
it gets dark. So.
How many movies have we played out here now? What do? You just pop the screen right up here?
Yes, we do.
And everybody sits here?
Yeah. Bring a chair.
Great.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. Let's go ahead and start the questions, Michelle. I'd like to remind everybody, gohammond.tv. If you have access to the internet and fairly quick connection, gohammond.tv. You can go there and you can watch Mayor's Night Out, past performances of Mayor's Night Out, press conferences that we hold, little clips we put up on Go Hammond TV. So that is available for you when you can't make it to Mayor's Night Out. So.
Okay, our first one is, we heard the BP gas station at 5 Points will be torn down. Any plans on what will be going there?
Great question. I'm going to pass off to the Chief of Staff on this one. Tom Dabberton.
It was purchased by Luke Oil. They closed it. They also own the property next door, the old Gas City. Their plans are to tear down both properties. Ultimately, they actually own the old Vogel's property as well, and ultimately they're planning on some commercial development there. They own the property next to Walmart. They actually developed the Walmart. They're in the process of developing what they're calling Phase 2, which are the stores that'll be adjacent to Walmart, and then this property is considered Phase 3 of their development plan. So demolition is supposed to occur later this year, very early next year. They have to get permits because there's underground storage tanks. But as far as actual new development, it's probably about 2 years away.
Hey, Tom, could you talk about the Unilever project as well, since we're covering every stretch of the boulevard except for that?
Actually, you should see a noticeable change along Unilever starting about September 10th. They're going to put wrought iron fencing all the way around their entire plant. On both sides of the boulevard, they're putting planters, they're putting berms, trees. They're making some real extensive improvements in the overall appearance. And in fact, yesterday we had a meeting with them, and they informed us that they're actually interested in signing an agreement with the city to take over care and maintenance and beautification of that entire stretch from their property, basically from 5 Points all the way over to the railroad tracks that end on the west end of their property. So it should be very, very nice along there in just a couple of months.
We've developed a real close relationship with Unilever over the past couple of years, and we're hoping for big information in the future that we could tell you guys. But we're working real close with Unilever, and they're a good corporate citizen, and hopefully we can work hand in hand with Unilever to make maybe even the 5 Point intersection itself a lot better and a lot different. So I don't know if we quite answered that question. If you want, you can come right up to the microphone and continue this question, or we'll go ahead and move on. All right.
Actually, the next question I think you answered was about Unilever's parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And also the development of Robertsdale Fifth Avenue.
Well, the parking lot, I don't think Tom touched on the bike trail expansion, but one thing that we're working with them right now, we matched them basically dollar for dollar on the improvements that Tom's talking about with the, we're going to have a lot of wrought iron fence, and one of the things that we're going to do is on the channel side of the Unilever employee parking lot is create a path on the channel side to extend the bike path over towards Horseshoe Casino's bridge over the boulevard. So instead of, I know a lot of people are biking a lot more because it seems like we're connecting a lot more trails. One of the problem areas up in this part of the city is when you dead end in Forsyth Park, if you want to continue over to Horseshoe Casino, the only way you could do so is going down the boulevard sidewalk, and literally 3 feet away from traffic coming against you at 50 miles an hour. So this is going to be a lot safer. It's going to be a lot nicer looking, and we'll connect you up to the bridge that goes over the boulevard, Horseshoe Casino, where there's miles and miles and more paths right over there. So that's good news coming, and Tom worked real close with Unilever to get that project done, paid for it out of TIF dollars, so your property taxes didn't go up at all on that project. And
the extension should actually, you'll see the construction in early spring. We'd love to have it done this fall, but as Stan Destani can explain, we're using some federal dollars as well, so it has to go through a review process by the Indiana Department of Transportation and federal authorities. So it's very unlikely that we'll actually be able to finish that path until the spring, but the plan is to be ready to go first chance we get.
On the topic of bike trails, I don't know how many of you, I know a lot of you actually were here the night we did the first annual Whiting Hammond After Midnight Ride, WHAM ride. We were expecting and hoping for a few hundred, and how many pre-registered for that? 522 pre-registered, and we were happy with that. And it was a beautiful night, and we had hundreds of people lined up over there trying to register on the night of the event. We ended up having over 700 riders on our first event. And when you consider Chicago's been doing theirs for over 25 years, and they had 10,000, for a city of 80,000 to have 700 riders on the first annual event was something that we were all real proud of. And it was a great ride. And we got even better plans for next year. We want to make this obviously an annual thing, and we want to make it, you know, my favorite part of the ride is coming through this part of the city, going over through Whiting along the lakefront, and we want to make it so that eventually we're going to connect up to Munster. Hopefully we connect up to Highland and just literally make it like a regional type of bike ride. So if you get a chance next year to do the WHAM ride, I recommend, you missed it the first year, but it's a great time, and hopefully we can get you out next year as well. Okay? So anyway.
Okay, next one.
If you got anybody, could you, if you want, please, I don't know how we're going to do this. Usually you raise your hand and Michelle comes up to you. Does anybody want to, if you want, you can go up. If you want to expand on the topic of bike trails or something, please just walk up and Michelle will step aside and you can take the microphone, okay? Sorry about this. We usually have the roving microphone, and today it didn't work. There had to be a glitch going outside, and that was the one. All right. Ann, did you have something? I saw you raise your hand. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, let's go on.
Okay, now that the state line generating plant has been sold to a demo company, will they also be responsible for the demo of the high wire towers?
No, good question. I'm going to pass off to economic development in a second, but I want to tell you that before I was your mayor and before I even went to law school, I worked for NIPSCO actually for 5 years, and I worked in substations in NIPSCO, and I worked on high tension transformers mostly, but we were around those wires all the time. And one thing that I know as a former NIPSCO engineer is you look at that substation, it's 345,000 volts coming out of one side and 138,000 volts coming out of the other side. And we were always worried about that because when we first heard State Line was going to shut down, we started thinking big, like maybe we could do some type of shopping center there. Could it be another location for a casino? We were dreaming, basically. What could we do with this piece of property? And one of the things that always scared us was on each side of State Line generating was high tension wires. High voltage, high tension, part of the national grid, basically. And the bad news about State Line, there's a lot of bad news and there's a lot of good news, but part of the bad news about them shutting down is State Line generating is literally the plant in the middle of those wires. So they're shutting the plant down, but those grid, that's going to remain, and it's part of the Midwest power grid, basically. So even though the plant and the building itself are shutting down, those high tension lines and those substations aren't going anywhere. They're owned by ComEd. Is both of them owned by ComEd? So that's something that the average person doesn't realize. When you hear, oh, State Line generating shutting down, it's going to clear out that whole area. Absolutely not. Tom, Phil, did you want to add something to that?
No, I mean, you pretty much nailed it, Mayor. When we first looked at that property, originally we thought it was all State Line Energy, but we quickly figured out that ComEd owned quite a bit of the property. So even though State Line was shutting down, we knew those wires, we found out very early, those wires were not going anywhere. And that really hurt us as far as trying to figure out some reuse for that property.
That would be a weird shopping mall. Like you go in there and your hair stands up. Ron has been doing a great job in Hammond Department of Environmental. I know Ron, you know, we talk about the bad news. We're losing this assessed value. People are losing their jobs. You know, it's a high-profile plant that's shutting down, but there is a reason it was being shut down. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's basically environmental issues associated with the plant's emissions. It was a large emitter, probably one of the largest emitters in the state of Indiana. And so air quality will significantly improve in our area. And when it comes to improvement, once that plant is, actual demolition starts there, asbestos will have to be removed from the interior of the building. Once the building comes down, you have to watch about dust emissions, and they will then, whoever utilizes that facility will, as part of their due diligence, determine whether or not there are any residual environmental problems left out there. So a source of problems is really going to turn out to be an asset in the long run, because someone is responsible for cleaning that up. They have the resources to do that, and it'll become then, whatever is left out there, a positive impact on the city and the environment.
Well, it's already having a positive impact on the environment because it's shut down, right?
Right, the emissions are immediate.
Right. Because, I mean, I drove by last night coming back from Chicago, and it was pitch black, the whole plant, which is...
That plant has always been a sore problem for US EPA Region 5, and I'm sure that there was a round of drinks up there when that plant decided to shut down for them.
I think they've mentioned it was the third dirtiest coal plant in the United States.
Yeah, it's a large plant. It switched in the 1970s from Indiana and Midwest coal to Western coal, and they upgraded their precipitators, but as emission reductions took place and new regulations took place, it was just not profitable for that plant to retrofit that facility.
I want to pass off to City Controller Bob Lendy. Bob, a lot of people, now we've talked about the positives on the environment, and there's obviously going to be an impact on the property taxes. Last I checked, they're the largest property taxpayer in the city?
That's correct.
Property taxpayer.
Property taxpayer. They still are the largest property taxpayer, Mayor. And one of the nuances about the project is even though the plant is shut down, it's just like if you were to move out of your house and leave your house vacant, you'd still pay the same amount of property taxes on your house for a given period of time. And that's currently what they're doing, is they're still paying the same amount of property taxes. They're still our largest taxpayer, and they'll continue to be. So that's good news. That's the good news. There's the plan to remediate and demolish some of the structure in, was it 2014? 2014, which means that in 2015, because our taxes are a year behind, that's when we may see a reduction in the overall property taxes that are received by the city. But until that time comes, there hasn't been too much of a blip in the collection of property taxes for that property. So that's the good news of the second good news, other than the environmental good news for us.
And Mayor, I might mention, long term, they're talking about possibly putting in another plant over there, some type of a peaker plant, for example.
I know I think it was in the paper, some like a hint about that. Do you have any information that we could share?
Nothing firm, nothing final, but they're certainly in discussions. I mean, as you mentioned before, that's an intersection for the North American grid, so they said it's an ideal location to put in some sort of a peak capacity plant. Peak capacity plants, Ron and Stan probably know more about it than I do, but they usually run off of natural gas. They're very low emission, but the good news is if they build one, the value of that plant would be substantial. It'd be a substantial investment, so we might recoup some of the lost taxes that Bobby was talking about.
And it sure would be nice to, even though it's a scary situation now because it is a big property taxpayer and people are losing their jobs. In fact, I got an email last night from one of the workers that lost his job there looking for work. And so that's scary, but at the end of the day, if we knew that a company came in and put a clean technology energy plant there, I think that would be real full circle, a nice story. But right now it's scary because we don't know what's going to be there 5 years from now. And like I said, it's a scary time right now, but we're working hard on it, and we got a lot of very, very intelligent people that know what they're talking about helping us. So, and I appreciate you asking that question. And then there might be some follow-up, so if there are, please don't be shy. None? Okay.
Okay, next one is, when will 2500 New York be torn down?
Good question. This is and I'm going to pass off in a few, but I want to tell you that this was a project that we really hoped was going to happen, and it seemed like it was happening. It's, for those of you that aren't aware, 2500 New York is basically off of hole number 6 at the Lost Marsh. It's a big building that was purchased by Illinois doctors that they wanted to convert that into a hospital, around 200 bed hospital. They bought the building, they gutted the building, they abated the asbestos in the building. They were cruising right along. They did tremendous amount of work, legal work with the state, just a tremendous amount of work. And then financially, along with a lot of other people, they ran out of money and they couldn't get the financing to get the project finished. And we hung with them for a long time, actually probably too long, because as long as we've hung with them and hoped that they would complete this project, we've all had to look at that empty building there, and that's never fun. So that was, like I said, that was a project I really hoped would happen, but it appears obvious now that it's not going to go forward. So I'm passing off to Bobby, I guess, first, and then Phil, I'm sure, is going to grab it after him.
Update you guys a little bit on that project. The owners of the hospital obtained a line of credit from a bank back in 2006, and the line of credit was for $70 million. And as they completed portions of the project, they would just draw down on a line of credit, just like any of us would if we had a line of credit with the bank. They were able to draw down $10 million for the purchase and abatement of the building. And in 2008, the bank that they drew that line of credit on failed and was taken over by the federal government. And when that happened, any loans that weren't already outstanding were canceled. So their remaining line of credit was then canceled, and they no longer had access to financing. So fast forward 4 years, and they're still trying to obtain financing from another bank. Through the recession, through the global economic decline, they've been trotting along trying to get this $50 million financing. In May of this year, the city entered into an agreement with them and gave them a drop dead date of January 1st of 2013. So they have until January 1, so about another 5 months, to come up with that financing. Otherwise, they have agreed to begin demolition proceedings on that building on January 2nd.
And the thing is, in this particular case, this is a project that would be wonderful if it happened. That's the thing. It's like, I hope that they come through and get the financing and finish this project, because if they did, you'd have a hospital right on New York Avenue, right off the golf course, 200 beds. It'd be successful because of the doctors in Illinois love practicing in Indiana because of the different in malpractice rates. So I really hope this happens, but we've been very, 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 very patient. And if it doesn't happen and Bobby was speaking, not really so much as the controller there, but as a member of the Board of Public Works and Safety. And that's why he's so familiar with that. Now I'm going to pass off to Phil Talon, who's the head of planning and development. Phil?
I think the key that you hit on, Mayor, is how hard we worked with them to try and get this project to fruition. You may recall when they passed the Stimulus Act years ago, they had Economic Development Recovery Act bonds, and we actually set aside a good portion of that money that was given to the county to help the doctors group finalize their project. But as Bobby said, with the economy the way it is and nobody being able to borrow any money from anybody right now, it really stopped the project. We also tried to throw a Hail Mary, and we talked to, you may have seen, we had a trip to China at one point, and we talked to Chinese investors about putting money. Now, it would still be owned by the doctors group, but we were trying to do everything we could to get this hospital going, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if it doesn't happen by January 1st, then the doctors agreed to demolition January 1st, if that's the case?
Correct, and they're going to pay for the demolition.
And they'll pay for the demolition, okay. Looks like we have a follow-up. Yes, ma'am.
I do. I know you've been patient, and I think too patient, actually.
Probably, right.
And I understand that this is a great project if it goes through.
Right.
But in the meantime, that building is a hazard.
I know.
There are people in there all the time. There's graffiti. I called the police last week because there was a truck in there. Is it going to take a tragedy to happen before something actually happens? There's no security there.
Well, obviously on the issues of people being in the building and the graffiti and stuff like that, we'd work with you. I understand. I do see the building a lot, I understand where you're coming from. I'd be frustrated if I lived where you do too. But you also have to understand from our point of view, that would be a wonderful project that created hundreds of jobs. And it would be an asset to your community if it did come through. So how patient, maybe in your opinion, we've been too patient, and I could respect that.
Well, I understand being patient, but what what happens in the meantime? Until January, what happens to that building? Where's the security? Is somebody watching it? I'm just afraid something's going to happen very tragically, and then you're going to turn around and say, oh, well, we should have.
Okay. Chief Miller, do you mind grabbing a microphone? Thank you. Did you get that, Chief? It sounds like we have security issues.
Yes, we can make frequent passes through there. One of the biggest problems, obviously you know this, Mayor, it's a huge complex, and if one or two people are in that complex, it's almost impossible to see them.
You said there's
Our
vehicles
guys have went in
inside of the
several
building?
times.
Well, not inside the building, but the other day there was a pickup pulled up on the south side of the building on New York Avenue, and I did call the police, and I know they responded.
And you know what?
But
That's a
that
good point.
happens all the time.
Usually when you have big buildings like that, we require them to fence it off, but I don't know if that was
Correct.
completely secure, is it?
And if it wasn't fenced off, maybe it could be boarded up. I know that doesn't completely deter someone from getting in, but it makes it harder.
But like when you think about like the Glidden company, even though the fence has been compromised, we forced them to fence that up so that people can't get in.
Correct. It makes it easier for us, Mayor.
Well,
Right.
The front part is fenced, and they.
But is the parking lot in back though?
No.
I didn't think so. So that's a good area if you were going to sneak in, where you would
But
go.
even in the front, they had peeled back the fence, and they were going in through that way.
Yeah, and that happens a lot of times, unfortunately. But I don't. That's a good. Yeah. Tom, you know?
Well, Linda, you know, one of the things that the city actually did, and Bobby mentioned it, is they've agreed to tear it down in January. And when we met with them back in May, we actually had planned to go ahead with the demolition order, which the Board of Works has already issued. The problem is that given the legal system, it would probably take until next May or June to actually get the order approved so we could demolish it. So by entering into the voluntary agreement with the owners, it speeds it up by about 4 or 5 months. Part of it is fenced, part of it isn't. You're right in the back from the Calumet College side, and we can talk to them again. To be honest with you, they've been somewhat reluctant. We had asked them to do some additional work as far as disguising the board up in the front, which they haven't done. But again, the one thing we do have in hand is at least we do know in January it'll be gone. And until then, we're going to have to work.
Because we've heard this before.
No, actually, we've been sort of hanging on. Maybe according to you, maybe we hung on too long, but I've always hoped that this project, I mean, this project for me for a couple of years was like my pet project because it's such a wonderful project. It's like a building that had been empty for a long time, was totally, it's ready to go. It's an empty shell. You go inside, it's just one big empty shell. I mean, it's literally ready for build out. That's the frustrating part. If we give up on this, and the good thing is, if we do give up on this, we do have a plan B, which I think you'll really enjoy if it does come to that. But at this point, we're hoping that this project does go through.
And I hope it does, but I'm just concerned for that area.
I totally understand. If I lived next to it, I would be too, ma'am. And I apologize to you, but we're doing it with the best of intentions, not because we're ignoring it. I see that building, not as much as you, but during the summertime, I see that building 30 times probably, okay? And my golf ball goes against it probably 10 of those 30 times, so. But I want to ask Mylan, maybe, you know, Mylan, one of the good things and something that hit me is obviously the Hamlin Police Department do a lot of patrols up here, but the Port Authority has a security patrol as well. Maybe that could be part of their jurisdiction, just to cruise through the parking lot and make sure. It's like an extra set of eyes, you know?
We will do that now, Mayor. Gary? Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary.
Here you go.
You know, I mean, seriously, I mean, I imagine Gary's got a good enough relationship with the Hammond Police Department where if he saw something, he could call up, you know, whoever the lieutenant on duty, and they'd be there. So maybe that's, and until January, just do me a favor. If we're having a problem, call my radio show, confront me. I have no problem. You know, we have the people here that could help, and hopefully something comes through and we make this happen. And if it doesn't, I think you'll like Plan B. Plan B is actually pretty solid. So, okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions? 2500 New York Avenue. That's a good topic. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the next one is condition of alley behind Franklin School and the driveway need for passage of ability to have speed bumps in Indiana.
Good. Speed bumps. I will take this one. We've had this a lot. It's funny. Speed bumps are illegal in Indiana on streets and in alleys. True statement, Stan? Public right of way. On public right of way. And then when you think about it, when you see a speed bump in Indiana, it's usually on private property, like in a parking lot or something like that. That's legal. We can't do it in alleys. We can't do it on the streets. Illinois, different story. All right, so we get that question a lot. The first time I heard it, I was shocked. But it's true when you think about it. Where have you seen a speed bump? In an alley or in a public right-of-way? Not in Indiana. You see it in Illinois. Whiting Park is. Oh, you're right. They do. Thanks for proving me wrong, sir.
You know what? They have them currently, but if you notice, they took them out along Center Street. The rubberized ones they took out, and the ones in
Whiting
Whiting
Park
Park
does
are
that, you're
actually.
right.
They've been there for a number of years. The plan is to remove them as they rebuild the lakefront.
Are they grandfathered or something?
Yeah. They're going to take them out when they rebuild the lakefront.
What do you think? Parkland's on it.
Park Road here is technically not a public right-of-way. It's a park road.
So we could, like in the parking lot by the splash pad, we could put speed bumps there, because it's a park. And we could put them in this parking lot over here, but we couldn't put it on Sheffield.
No, you couldn't put them on Sheffield Avenue. You couldn't put them on any of the residential streets.
It's weird. I don't really necessarily agree with it. I imagine the General Assembly in their infinite wisdom thought that they were projectiling off of the bump. Maybe that's it. Do you know, Stan, why they made them illegal?
Well, there's a lot of issues with them, especially where you plow snow. The speed bumps become an issue because you're gonna damage the snow plows. You're gonna damage the equipment. We're trying to put more people on bicycles on streets, and the speed bumps will knock people off bicycles. They're a liability and a safety hazard, especially if people don't expect them. And you're going along a road at 20. If you're driving down an alley and you're speeding, and if you hit a speed bump, you're going to end up inside somebody's yard or somebody's garage. So I think that's the reason why they've been banned. Even in Illinois, they're not really doing like a speed bump. They're doing like a raised platform.
Yeah, it's like a ramp.
Yeah.
In fact, as soon as you leave Walmart going in Illinois, they have a bump as soon as you get in there. And it's like a smooth, and then it's a quick drop off.
Right.
All right, yes, ma'am. Okay. Mm-hmm. Michelle, you want to give the microphone to her? She seems like she's close enough.
There's a blind curve there where the alley turns right. Now, if there's children out in there, which there are in the summer, playing soccer and basketball, they could be just run right over because they go so fast through there.
Ma'am, what alley are we talking about again?
The alley behind Ben Franklin School.
Okay.
And the homeowners on the west side of 16th Avenue, or Roberts Avenue.
Okay.
Like I said, there's garages there.
And you wrote this down on a questionnaire, right?
Yes, I did.
Great. Could you do me a favor, Michelle? Could you copy Brian Miller and myself to that, and we'll both follow it up?
I can't really see when you're talking about fatalities or somebody getting killed, where those speed bumps are not.
Ma'am, we didn't make
not a
these
good
rules.
thing.
We
No,
didn't
but
make.
It needs to be brought up by someone in politics to address this.
Okay.
To the state legislature.
It is, and I agree with you, ma'am. It's strange. I mean, I was, when the first time I heard it, I was shocked when I heard it myself, but the more you think about it, outside of Whiting Park, but that's a park. I mean, you don't see them in the alleys. You see them sometimes behind a grocery store or something like that, but that's private property, you know?
What worries me is when they're going the wrong way down that alley.
Right.
They come around that blind curve, and the kids are out there playing.
Well, why don't we do this? I'm going to follow up that question with the police chief. Brian, I mean, do you have a lot of complaints about speeding in the alleys and things of that nature? Okay. Okay.
Now, I also want to address the fact of the entrance way to that alley between the street and the sidewalk. I've called the city several times, and they are very conscientious about coming out. But all they do is put a Band-Aid on it. That section there needs to be redone, because in the winter it freezes because of the water collecting there, and in the summer, when it rains hard, it floods. But it needs more than a Band-Aid. It needs to be redone.
Okay. Stan?
What section was she talking
Oh,
about?
what?
From 116th Street
116th.
to the beginning of the alley, across the sidewalk. The entry, part.
Just the entry area?
Right.
Not the whole alley?
No, just where you come in. And the reason for that is they've come out very diligently, but we have so much heavy traffic there because of people, parents picking up and taking their children to school. That's another issue too. Is that it has such heavy traffic that when they put that stuff in the potholes, it's right out in 2 days because of that. And also when my husband and I jokingly call that our parade, because once they start picking up those kids, you can't get out of your garage. If you want to park in front of your house, you can't because they're lined up all the way back to
Right. I live by Purdue Cal. I sympathize with you.
Well, like I said, it's just that part's a nuisance. That's not a danger.
Okay.
The danger is those speed on that alley.
Okay, it sounds like it's a school time issue, Chief Miller. For follow-up, it sounds like a lot of the complaints are stemming from speeding during pickup and drop-off at the school. Oh.
Other times when people would just be going down the alley, and why they go the wrong way, it's very plainly marked.
Okay.
So why are they doing it? And they go like a bat out of you-know-what.
Thank you, ma'am. Whew. I am too. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Our next one is also about safety. Is it possible to have extra patrols on 121st and Lake, 121st and Atchison by the stop signs?
Chief Miller, why don't you just talk about your strategy as far as policing Robertsdale area? And it sounds like we have specific requests, but
the one that she's talking about now, Mayor, is the BP employees every day get out at, I believe, 4 o'clock.
Oh.
And it's like they wave a green flag and 10,000 cars come
Does the person
screaming
ask
down
this
29.
question, are you out here right now? Did I talk to you? You call my radio show? No. Somebody called me on this. It was at the Friday, that's right, 121st. The BP contractors are going, it's constant bus traffic going down 121st, right?
Correct.
Thank you for bringing this up.
Yes. We have police officers out there every afternoon, and so does Whiting, just because of the, large traffic problem we have. They let them all out at the same time, and it creates a huge problem for us.
And they could easily just go around the Calumet, right? And,
Correct.
and instead they're using 121st to cut across.
Correct.
Yeah.
We'll work on that, but like I said, most of the time it's just they let them out at 4 o'clock, and it's all like it's like a bunch of kids on the last day of school. They racing to get out of there, and it definitely causes
29th
traffic
the
problems.
same way. Yeah, 29th is bad. I've seen that a number of times.
We've written hundreds of traffic tickets, and it doesn't seem to deter them.
The thing about the BP expansion, I mean, they're changing our skyline as we see it. I mean, it's a huge project. I think it's a $3 billion project, $3.8 billion. There's 15,000 contractors working at BP right now. It's not going to be like that permanently. And overall, this is a very good thing for Whiting. Very good thing for Whiting. Literally, 5 years ago, Whiting didn't know what the answer was, and the BP expansion is a big part of their future. So it's good for Whiting. It's good for Robertsdale. There's a number of Hammond residents that work there as well. So we're all happy that BP chose to invest in this area. I understand it's uncomfortable, and we're going to do our best to try to work with you, because at the end of the day, we work for you, and we don't work for BP contractors. We don't work for BP. So we will follow this up. I apologize to the person that gave me this complaint on Friday. I forgot to follow it up with Chief Miller, and thank goodness for Mayor's Night, we got to follow it up. So I did get a complaint Friday night from residents on 121st that were complaining about the bus traffic and the BP contractor. So great. And 129th, as the councilman pointed out, is a bad problem as well. Yeah. Great. I know we went to no trucks on that a few years ago, or a couple years ago. We haven't really had any problems with that lately, or?
No, the truck traffic doesn't go there, but it's just the cars, pickup trucks that are coming out of.
That are going 70 miles an hour down 129th.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've written literally hundreds of citations on 120.
I bet you get some pretty excessive speeds on that stretch.
60, 70. Yeah.
I imagine. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any follow-ups to those questions? Sounds like BP contractors wreaking havoc on our city. Okay.
What is the status of the Atchison water and or sewer project? Mayor Joe said Atchison could be made one way when complete.
That's not good. I'm looking at the guys that usually help me out, and they're shaking their head.
No, I can. I thought
Okay,
Stan
Tom.
wanted to jump on it.
Okay.
Is that the sewer project?
Yeah. Yes, Dan, the sewer project, yeah.
We've got a project, we're gonna be replacing a section of the force main. It's gonna go out to bid in October. Probably most of the construction won't start until next spring, but that's basically from 121st Street to Indianapolis Boulevard. It's being funded with a grant from the Army Corps of Engineers. Eventually, we're gonna have to replace the force main through the entire length of Atchison Avenue. We are looking at doing the balance of it. We don't have a funding source yet for all of it. I think that'll probably happen in 2014.
And just in follow-up, the city of Whiting bought the old Mercantile National Bank building right at Atchison and the Boulevard. They're going to tear that down and build parking, basically, so they can develop the area immediately to the east. As part of that, the city of Whiting has agreed to help redevelop St. John parking lot. They're going to pay for wrought iron fencing around St. John parking lot and their own lot, with a share agreement that they can use that parking lot when it's not being used for church activities. And our part of the commitment is we're going to pay for ornamental lighting down Atchison Avenue, which is a continuation of what we've already got on Superior and also on Lincoln Avenue. As far as the question on the one-way street, I think what Mayor Joe was referring to is there's some discussion about turning the small section of Atchison Avenue between the Boulevard and 119th Street into one-way. If you've ever tried to enter the Boulevard going north, it's a disaster. It's an accident waiting to happen. There's been numerous accidents, and those are usually very serious accidents. So the idea is to possibly turn that one-way going south, just between 119th Street and the Boulevard. But that's not been finalized, but it's under discussion.
Thanks, Tom. Any follow-up on that? Great. I'd like to thank real quick before we jump into the next question, the elected officials that are out here. Besides the 1st District Councilman, Mark Kowinski, who I want to thank for hosting us, we have the Councilwoman at Large, Janet Vanez. Thank you very much, Councilwoman. We also have Councilman at Large, Dan Spitali. Thank you very much, Councilman. All right, we'll jump into the next question.
Is there some way to raise the water level on Wolf Lake? Someone said Avenue O outlet has a valve they can shut down.
Okay, I learned a little bit since I've been your mayor, and I'm going to pass off to Stan for the stuff I didn't learn. One of the reasons we pay for flood insurance in Robertsdale in the water garden section is because we do not have control of the lake on our side, whereas on the Illinois side, they do have control. Right, Stan?
Yeah.
Thank you. I was getting nervous. So.
There's a weir structure over in the Powers Nature Center over on the Illinois side, right off of Avenue O. So if you go into Powers Nature Center and if you turn south and you go along that frontage road, you'll see that there's a structure there. There's a gauge on the bridge that goes over there. That's the elevation on the Illinois side. It doesn't necessarily tell you what the elevation is here because the water flows constantly out in that direction. Basically, I just use the distance from the bottom of the pier to the top of the water, kind of to gauge it here. We regularly monitor what's going on the Illinois side. Mylon's been out there with crews and actually cleaning culverts that are not being properly maintained by the government agencies on the Illinois side to make sure we don't flood here on the Hammond side.
And during the heavy floods in '08, I know the Wolf Lake got very, very high, and I know we had some basement backups and some minor flooding up here, but I mean, that's really like the heaviest rain we've seen since I've been mayor, right?
Right.
And
it didn't overtop the banks here. We kept an eye on it. We pumped down George Lake. We control the level over in George Lake with a pump station right at the corner of the golf course. So we can actually pump water out of it relatively quick. We don't really have much of a flooding issue up here other than seepage and the high water table. We don't have any above ground flooding. We've pretty much got everybody out of the floodplain over the last 6-7 years.
Except for those real
yeah,
close
there's a
ones.
few. There's some homes right by Wolf Lake because of the low elevation. They sit lower than the actual water level of the lake. We are looking at some fixes there, maybe with some backups to the flood pumping station, to the storm station. We've got Christopher Burke looking at ways to maybe pull those people out of the floodplain too. That's what our goal is, not to have anybody left in the floodplain, but it's a tough uphill battle.
And the homes that are left, yeah, those are the tough ones because of their
Yeah,
elevation.
Those are the tough ones because there's usually some really good reason why they're still in there.
Okay. Yes, sir. The,
Yeah,
so the
there's no way to actually raise the level of Wolf Lake artificially. You know, it counts on the cooling water coming out of the two industries there, and the regular rainfall. Same thing with George Lake. We can't raise it. We could lower it, but we can't elevate it.
Great. We're learning stuff. Any follow-up questions to that? Since over the last 9 years, Wolf Lake has changed a lot, and you know we have a lot to be thankful to the Regional Development Authority. We got Representatives from Short Elliott Hendrickson out here that helped us design the pavilion and design all the changes. But early on, Wolf Lake got a $8 million grant from the federal through Congressman Pete Visclosky's office, and we fixed the wetlands and we fixed the shoreline, and then we got the big grant from the RDA, and that's when we did the Little League fields in Forsyth, and we did this part of the park over here, and we did the splash pad, and you know, we got in the bike trail bridges that link us over to Whiting, and you're going to see a lot of improvements coming in the near future. Within the next year, you're going to see us go all the way around Wolf Lake to parts of Wolf Lake that, I mean, Tom Dabberton's lived here his whole life, to parts of Wolf Lake that he's never been to, that we've never had access to, well, legally.
I was going to say there's a lot of people in this audience know I've probably been there, but you're right. It's an amazing project, and it truly there's a lot of perspectives of Wolf Lake that most people have never seen.
For instance, you're going to go right through, basically along the high tension wires on a bike trail, through the middle of Wolf Lake, along the toll road. This is going to be part of your bike trail network, and it's already been basically funded. Mylan, you want to expand a little bit on this and some of the stuff we're expecting to see?
By the end of this fall, the trail south from here at the pavilion and the boat launch ramp will take you to approximately 129th Street. Then next spring, when all the permits are in place with the Army Corps of Engineers, because we know that takes a little bit of time because we're going to be doing some work in the lake, when all those permits are gathered and we have all the agreements, Mayor, with NIPSCO and probably Commonwealth Edison of Indiana, to put the trail over there by the Ileana Yacht Club on the other side of the lake. Then the trail will tie into back to 112th Street and pick up and actually tie into the Burnham Trail on the Illinois side. But that part will happen next spring.
And believe me, we're already talking about how we could change the route for the all-night ride next year, because
Exactly.
we want you to see all the new bike trails that we have. And so, I mean, it's exciting what's going on. We have a lot, and you'll notice that we're acquiring a lot of property. The Port Authority is acquiring a lot of property down to 129th.
That's exactly right, yes, Mayor. On the west side of Sheffield Avenue, the Port Authority has acquired, with the help of the Redevelopment Commission, all the property to Dover and right to their fence line. So the park will expand south to Dover's property line. And then in the triangle, which is Calumet and Sheffield to 129th, we have offers in for the Carter property, Ronwell Trucking, and that should happen and be closed hopefully in the next year. And then we've also entered into a discussion with Al Bridegroom and Calumet Pallet.
Nice.
So when this evening's meeting is done, if you want to take a walk over by the folks from SEH, you'll take a look at a couple of artists' rendering of what it could look like from the golf course and the clubhouse back towards Wolf Lake, and a number of park improvements that'll take place.
I mean, literally, you're going to have a park from 129th up to the boulevard.
Right.
I mean, through the channel, through Forsyth Park. This is going to be a huge green space. It's going to be beautiful, and you're going to be lucky to live in this part of the city. I mean, and it wouldn't have been available without SEH and their representatives helping us with the dream, without the hard work of the Port Authority, without the hard work of the councilman, and without the hard work and the belief by the RDA. And I'm not, you know, this is something that was put together by Governor Daniels, and I'm not in the business of complimenting him very often, but I do want to say that the RDA, Hammond was the biggest recipient, and still is, I believe, the biggest recipient of any single award in their history. They've been very good to the city of Hammond, and this vision that's you see and take place each and every year, progress, would not have been possible without the RDA. So I want to say thank you. I'm sure they're either watching or they will watch. I want to say thank you to them, because this pavilion, the splash pad, all the improvements you're seeing, the bridge going over, the changes you've seen on 119th and Whiting, even though that's not Hammond, RDA. This is good stuff, and we're lucky that this happened in this part of the city. And Congressman Pete, when I first became mayor, asked us to consider Wolf Lake as part of the Marquette Greenway vision. And at the time, we said, okay, Congressman, you're the congressman, we understand. And we basically signed off on it. Little did we know, had we never agreed to that this is part of the Marquette Greenway, we would have never got the RDA funding. I mean, it was a decision we made early that we really didn't understand the ramifications for, and quite frankly, it's been tremendous for the city. So a lot of people involved that are turning this part of Hammond, literally turning it around. And 10 years from now, you're not going to even recognize this part of the city. It's going to be so different, especially the further south towards 129th you go. We said early on, 129th is the greenway for us. North of 129th is green. We already made a huge commitment with the Lost Marsh Golf Course. We're going to commit to that part of the city. We've been tested a couple times, and we've passed each time. And I'm proud of it. And it's something that we're all going to be very proud of when it's all done. So thank you to everybody that's worked very hard on it, and congratulations to you in this part of the city. I actually have gotten in a lot better shape, because when I ride my bike, I come to this part of the city now, and it's a pretty long ride for me, but I make it here just because this is the best part of Hammond to ride your bike around, and going over into Whiting. It's great. So anyway, any questions or follow-up on that? And I appreciate Mylan pointing out that we do have a representative from SEH here. I want to thank them very much for all the hard work they did. And if you have questions, please go over there and bring them up to them, and they'll help you. Okay? Thank you. Let's move on.
Okay, this is more of a comment saying there is a bad odor at the north end of Wolf Lake at the end of the beach.
And yet we still have the stink. Bad odor. It must be Cargill, I imagine?
No. It's actually, there's two locations. It's also over by the splash pad. There are a couple of coves along Wolf Lake, and because of the low water and because of the lack of rain, it's basically just the weeds rotting. And it's unfortunate. I smelled it myself when I rode my bike here tonight. It'll go away as soon as we get either a strong wind or we get some more rain. So it's naturally occurring. There are pockets along George Lake as well, and you know we're historically pretty low on the water level, as this gentleman had pointed out, on Wolf Lake. So you're going to have that smell, but it does occur almost every year.
Just as long as it doesn't rain on Friday. So. Sunday. Yeah, or Saturday for that matter. So. All right. Can we? I don't know if we could mess with the waterway without.
Yeah, we couldn't do it quickly. There's
you need like our
drawn-out permit process.
Go through.
We'd have to do because it's considered dredging.
Right.
Army Corps.
We could.
That's long. Yeah, and Army Corps looked at that because they did change the bottom of the river. Did you? Yeah, when Army Corps did the shoreline restoration project, that they actually did dredging in Wolf Lake, and they did modification of some of the areas. Now, for us to come back and change that, we'd have to go through a long, drawn-out permit process. We wouldn't be able to touch that probably for 18 months or longer.
Nothing but good news, huh, sir? Sorry, but you live in a great part of the city, though. It's beautiful. And you could hear Cheap Chick for free this week. I mean, Michelle?
This is a Parks comment that the grass at the Old Jen's apartment, Indianapolis and Roberts, needs to be cut.
We just acquired that property. I don't know if we fully own that at this point or not.
for real. I truly don't know. I know
How long ago
that-
did you acquire it?
I haven't know if we even acquired it yet.
I think
You haven't even acquired it and you're getting complaints already.
It was recorded about 2 weeks ago. That site actually, and I saw Bernie Grisolia here, and I don't know if he's still here or not. The park department acquired it for the United Citizens Association, and we're the ones that build the planters and the beautifications around Robertsdale. We actually have a plan to put a fountain out there. It should be done by sometime by late October. It's a pretty aggressive project. It's actually going to have a reflection pool and 3 geysers, one representing George Lake, one representing Wolf Lake, and one representing Lake Michigan. So I know that Bernie and Tom Wargo from Custom Craft and a few other contractors were actually out there last Saturday doing some measurements. I think they're waiting for a surveyor to come out and stake it, which is why it hasn't been cut, because they want to get the survey stakes in first. So bear with us. It's going to be quite impressive when it's done. It's a very elaborate project, a lot of planners, and the fountain to boot. So it'll be very nice.
And while we're talking about planners and things, that reminds me about in North Hammond, at the island that splits off between Holman and Sheffield. I don't know how many people noticed. There's a lot of new plantings in there. That was done by the Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association through the help and coordination of Councilman Mark Lewinsky also, and it's very beautiful. They do a great job over there, and I wanted to say thank you because I know there's representatives of the Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association here right now, so thank you very much for doing that. Looks very nice. Okay.
Okay, this is a question from Doris, and it's regarding scavenger ordinance.
Okay.
Well, I've kind of written down what I wanted to say, but you may not like it. The city, to me, the city was not making enough by just issuing permits to people who were scavenging. So now that it's been outlawed, the city will be taking over the picking up of these items, which I read in the paper a figure that the city was going to make like $22,000 or whatever. Now, if the city takes over, city workers takes over this project, the taxpayers are going to end up paying for it, where these scavengers served a purpose. And my biggest thought about it, I'm not involved in it, but there were a lot of these people who, because of the high unemployment, had stooped to doing this because they wanted to try to at least feed their families and put food on the table. I think that this is just an unfair thing that, I'm so nervous.
I think I got, you don't like the ordinance.
The point is that it's like, same thing like Big Brother picking on the little guy. You know,
Okay.
I realize that there was a couple little problems, but there's always going to be stinkers in everything.
Okay, we're going to respond. I'm going to pass off to the chief in a second, but I want to tell you, the council, that ordinance is brought before the council, it passed 5-4, okay? And it came to my desk and I signed it. Now, and I'll tell you why I signed it. I know from being mayor for 9 years that a lot of the burglaries that take place in the yard, you know, the people that are doing the burglaries are posing as scavengers, which makes it hard for the police department when they see a car in the alley and they have a valid scavenger license. They could be actually scavenging or they could be casing your backyard, ma'am. And I could tell you that one of the biggest complaints I have constantly is people want to be secure in their property, in their house. That's why I signed it. I think it's going to make Chief Miller's job as the police chief and the Hammond Police Department, I think it's going to make their job easier. And that's my #1 priority. So that's why I signed it. I sympathize and understand, and not everybody's going to agree with it. Wow, I didn't expect to get applause there. I appreciate it. But I'm gonna have Chief Miller, Chief Miller and I have been together for 9 years, like an old married couple. Chiefs don't stick around usually for 9 years. There's usually something that comes between us. We work well together. I trust his judgment. He lives in the city of Hammond. He cares for the city of Hammond. And I rely on his judgment because I'm not a police officer and he is. So I'm going to let him talk about why he thought that ordinance should pass.
Mayor, I agree with your viewpoint. And I was one of the biggest proponents, ma'am, of that ordinance, and I'm going to tell you why. Basically, we only have 22 scavengers that came and got a permit. The rest were freelance or doing it illegally. On numerous occasions, we have caught convicted burglars, convicted thieves, people that are on parole, probation, in our alleys scrapping. They might be picking up metal today, but they're going to be breaking into your garage and your home tomorrow. Two of the people, it was interesting, two of the people that came to the council meeting, the protest, having their scavenging card taken away, one of them was a convicted burglar, and he had been convicted a year and a half earlier. You know what, folks? I don't want him in my alley, and I hope you don't either. That's not the kind of person I want. We'd asked the street department and sanitation department to when they were in the alleys, if they saw someone scavenging, someone looked suspicious, call us. And one day I was sitting at my desk and got one of those calls, and I ran out with one of my police officers, and the subject we grabbed had been out of jail for about 7 days. And can anybody guess what he was in jail for? Burglary. So, yes, there are some people, there's 22 people that were taken out of their living as far as Hammond. They can go to Highland, they can go to Whiting, or, no, Whiting closed the scavenging, but they can go across the state line and they can still scavenge, they just can't do it in Hammond. And like I said, you talk about costs, so that's going to cost the city a lot of money. Each and every time one of my officers has to roll on a call, we figure it costs about $45. So you add up all the times that we went to check on scrappers or taking reports from burglaries that are cost scrappers, it's a huge amount of money.
And Chief, and the thing is, and I know Councilman wants to speak next, this makes it easy on you as a police officer. If you see non-city workers in the alley, if you see somebody in a truck, obviously going through somebody's trash, I mean,
correct,
they're not supposed to be there now. It's very
correct,
clear. It makes your job easier.
The same thing with neighbors at Neighborhood Watches. People will tell me, well, I didn't know whether to call the police or not because I know some people have licenses to do this. Now no one will have a license, and they will be calling us more often.
It's on, Mark. No.
I wanted to weigh in on this too because I sponsor this ordinance, and it was after a lot of thought and a lot of feedback from going to neighborhood meetings in our district at north and south ends of the district, and for years hearing complaints about traffic in the alley, not knowing who's there, and these scavengers and people dipping into your yard, you know, going over the fence, taking things that they claim were scrap, and the owners were saying, no, it's not. But I conferred with the at-larges, the council at-larges, who go to meetings all the way across the city too, and they said, just as we're hearing in our district, that the number 1 and 2 complaints at the neighborhood meetings are Illinois plates and scavengers. So it wasn't just in this district, but Janet Vanez and Dan Spitali verified that this is a common complaint across the city, and that's why we acted on this. And when I spoke with Chief Miller about this, he was like the #1 proponent for making this move and change so that our enforcement efforts would be better. So that's a little history on why we did this, and we know it has an impact on some people, but I think it has a much bigger impact on the residents in a positive way than on some of the few scrappers that are trying to cut out a living here in Hammond. Thanks.
It's funny, some of the ordinances that we sign that you think are going to be controversial turn out not to be controversial at all, and then some of the ordinances that we sign that we think are no-brainers just blow up. This was one that caught me off guard, I have to say. The scrapper ordinance, I was shocked actually at the level of vitriol that was directed at us, and I thought I was surprised how close it was on the council, and I was surprised afterwards when people that we've been good to lashed out at us, and like for instance a gentleman that we sponsored 9 years on the robotics team quit doing the robotics team because he was mad because of the scrapper ordinance. This issue caught me off guard, but I think we did the right thing. I'm proud of the vote I made. I think it's a problem in the city, and I think we're doing everything we can between the council and the administration to fix the problems we have. So, and I apologize if we affected you or in the wrong way, ma'am.
No, you didn't. It's just I wasn't aware to the serious extent that this was. All I read in the paper was just that a few people complained about going in the backyard. I had no idea that it was, to this extent. So I further, I agree with you 100% on that basis.
It's, you know what, I appreciate that, and it's that's one of the good things about Mayor's Night, and that's why we put them on the internet and we keep them archived so that you could. But I appreciate it. It's nice of you. Any other issues on the scavenger ordinance? Cool. Next question.
Doris also has for senior housing.
All right. Get the microphone, Tom. Hi, Doris. Let me preempt you. Senior housing right by the bridge going over New York Avenue. Is that the project?
No.
Oh, okay.
I want some of this nice lakefront property.
Oh, okay.
I think the seniors would appreciate being able to go there and fish and see the scenery. We have no facilities in this area for our senior citizens.
You're gonna love
All right,
this, Doris.
You're gonna love this.
Well, you're gonna build one.
You're gonna love this.
Yeah, here's
It's
what's
almost
actually,
like we knew this question was coming.
Yep, the mayor's right. It's almost like we knew you were going to ask this, Doris. There is a developer that is actually has options on property over on the 2100 block of Indianapolis Boulevard, just south of St. Adelbert's. They're working actually with the Gary Diocese about acquiring some of the property that the diocese owns south of the church. And the plan is to develop senior citizen housing over on that block. Really very nice plans. They operate a series of senior housing developments in Ohio and in Michigan. In fact, I'm going next week to see one of their properties. They're moving forward. The plan right now is they need to submit an application by November. And if they are approved, because there's some federal subsidies for senior housing that they can get, if they're approved, they'll probably begin construction sometime early in 2013. So the plan, actually, the first phase is to build 55 units and a second phase with a second 55 units. So there'll be about 110 units over there. Again, I think you'll really, really enjoy what the plan is.
You'll still be here. And you know what? It's right off the bike trail. You could get on the bike trail and go over and fish in George Lake.
Look at what a more peaceful atmosphere this would have down here.
Well,
this is for the older people. It's the park facilities here is for like middle-aged and younger. So why not let us have a little of that and let the men?
Well,
like
the
I
thing
said,
is,
you
we
know,
don't initiate these. This isn't government initiated. This is done by private developers. We work with them. So these private developers want to develop this specific piece of property, and it's a great location as far as we're concerned. So.
What I'm referring to basically is my mother lived in what they call a high-rise in a small town, and it was like a sliding rule rental. It was for people who could not afford to go to these real fancy, expensive, senior homes or villages or whatever. And you turn in your income and a list of your expenses, and your rental depended on what they thought you could afford. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay.
Not building a Hartsfield Village or whatever these fancy things.
Well, ma'am, actually, that's exactly what some of the properties will be available based on income. Others will be, based on what you're seeking. So I think the project and the developers actually are addressing what you're talking about. They really are.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll see. I appreciate it, ma'am. Oh, I'd like to thank Councilman, 3rd District Councilman Anthony Higgs. Thank you very much, Councilman Higgs, for being here. And I'd like to thank Robertsdale's very own Councilman at Large, Robert Markovich. Thank you very much, Councilman.
We have heard that there is a possibility of a paintball along Boy Scout Road on the old Calumet Container property. What is the status of this project?
I'm not interested in that. I've heard about that also. It just doesn't sound like a real positive thing to me. I don't know. You came to Board of Works? Bob?
Yeah, there was a gentleman that came to the Board of Works about a month ago looking for a permit to open a paintball field there. And he has to get permission from the city because we have an ordinance that prohibits the discharge of any type of, not firearm, but any type of projectile in the city.
Other than fireworks.
Yeah, other than fireworks, right? That's trumped. So he had to come to the Board of Works, and the Board of Works basically, after reviewing his application with the Hammond Department of Environmental Management, as well as getting some input from the community, denied his request as of right now, and we have no plans to reverse that decision anytime in the near future.
Thank you, Bob. Mayor's night puts things to rest. Any follow-up? It doesn't sound like the best economic development project that we've contemplated, so I think they made the right decision at the Board of Works. Yes, 36. Yes, sir, going over to
It's
Illinois.
the Hegewisch Road.
Right. Right.
It's got a bunch of different names depending on how old you are and what part of Hammond you live in.
Okay.
Since Clark is no longer a choice school, they have stopped busing students from the tree streets. I want my kids to remain at Clark, however, I do not have the option to transport them to school by means of the city bus. Are we ever going to have city buses again?
You know, that's a good question. At first, I was thinking it was a school city issue, and I was getting ready not to answer it, but they turned around and talked about the RBA. The RBA, the city buses were given to the Regional Bus Authority 2 years ago, over 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. At the time, we gave them the city buses, all of our assets, our employees, our contracts with the unions, and $2 million over 2 years. And quite frankly, they assured us that a permanent source of funding was going to be found as long as we worked with them, and we did. And it was a good thing we did, because we've been under such financial pressures lately that I can't imagine having another $1.5–2 million on our books right now. It's hard enough to make ends meet without the buses there. So, you know, I've said this a number of times, and I still do. It's a lot of people failed on buses. I'm one of them. A lot of people share the blame for why the buses stopped running. Okay, I probably shouldn't have got rid of the buses from Hammond. But the council and the mayor at the time, we thought it was a good decision. We thought that giving the RBA $2 million was a good decision, because it was going to help them in their source of permanent funding. And now that everything's fallen flat, there's a lot of people with egg on their face. And I'm one of them. But I mean, I think we made the right decision at the time. And the RBA was created by the state of Indiana for busing, regional busing. And we were urged, cities like Hammond were urged to join the RBA, and we did. And we were assured that this was going to be successful, and it wasn't. It was successful while it was running. Now it's not running, and it's not successful. But, you know, at the time, I think we made the right decision. It's not an easy issue, and I apologize. I know there's people that are affected, and, you know, it does. I mean, I don't really think. I have no means to finance that, ma'am. Ma'am, could you put this on the
Can you
microphone?
come over to me?
Yeah.
Years ago, they had where you paid a monthly bus pass for the students to be bused here, city bus. Okay, and it was like $31 a month.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
And
but
then-
let me interject. So you said years ago the students would pay $31 a month for a monthly bus pass, right? The problem is, in actuality, how much it probably cost to transport that student was probably more like $150. So what's going on is we're running a deficit for each pass that we sell. Public transportation is a money loser. It is, okay? And there's no way, I mean, but you have to have people that believe in the goodness of public transportation and understanding that you're going to lose money when you run it, okay? And I'm one of those people. I truly believe in it, but like they have not given me the tools to get this done. They haven't given us the tools to be able to do that. It's hard enough to pay the police and the firemen right now and everybody else. And that's just another $1.5 million that we don't have right now. And that's the problem, ma'am. It's a tough situation, but what I'm saying is, even though you have sympathetic people in Hammond that believe in this, and that's why we joined the RBA, because we believe in it, even though we have people downstate that control the big money that don't believe in this at all, so bad that in Indianapolis they want to do a referendum on whether or not public transportation would be taxed. A referendum, meaning we're going to let you vote on it. Do you want to tax public transportation? Down in Indy, by the way. The Republican majority in Indianapolis didn't even let them vote on that. Didn't even bring it to a vote. A referendum. So even if they passed it and said, yes, let's have a referendum to see if Indianapolis wants to have this, they blocked the referendum. They want no chance whatsoever for us to fund public transportation. And it's, you know, it's impossible for us to fund this right now. It's not possible. We're barely paying the police department, no offense, Brian, wherever you are, $24 million, Bobby? $24 million for the police department. You know how much property tax revenue we collect? $29 million. almost 100% of our property tax revenue goes to the police department, and then the fire department, 16 million, wipes it out, and we're 10 million upside down. By the way, everybody else around this table hasn't even gotten paid yet. So when I pay everybody else around this table, we're in upside down. So we're using casino money to supplement our budget. And then if we were going to take the buses back on, which even if I wanted to, I think it would be hard to convince 5 people on the council that this is a wise course of action. Even if we wanted to do that, I wouldn't know how the heck we'd pay for it. I'd be telling Councilman Kowinski and the city council, this is another couple $1 million. By the way, we don't own buses anymore. Got to get buses, got to get drivers, got to hire staff. Gas, $4 a gallon. When we got rid of it, gas was probably closer to $2 a gallon. This is not an easy, and the thing is, man, we did the right thing. Hammond was the good guy in this. We joined the RBA. We supported the RBA. I floated a bill through Representative Linda Lawson, our representative, floated a bill last year to fund the RBA with casino gaming revenue. Guess what? Didn't even get the time of day. And we were offering gaming revenue. Didn't even get the time of day. So the thing, what I'm telling you is, there are people that don't believe what you're saying. It's not right here. It's not Councilman Kowinski. It's not Mayor McDermott. It's not the Hammond City Council. There's people in Indy that don't even want you to have that ability. And it's bad because they're the ones that are in charge right now. I don't know what to tell you to make you feel better, but it's bleak and it's sad and it's true, what I just told you.
Well, it would have been such a big shock if they hadn't stopped, you know, the school buses from going out over here because it's no longer a choice school.
Right.
And then they take away the city buses.
Right.
So they take away, you know, all the means.
I'm not trying to sound callous here. Bikes. I ride my bike up here, and I live right by Purdue Cal. And I mean, the high school students, and I'm not saying yes or no, and I'm not crazy about letting my high school student ride all over. Well, my high school students are in college now, but that is an option, and we are working as a city to try to make it safer paths. We're putting bridges over 165th. We're trying to link up our bike trails to make it a safer path so that literally if you left the tree streets to get to Clark on a bike would probably take 15 minutes. And granted, in the wintertime, that would be no fun. I acknowledge that. You know, and when it's snowing out, that would be no fun, and we'd have to figure stuff out. But, you know, I don't know what to say, ma'am. I'm sorry about that. I mean, but I acknowledge that it's a bad situation. But it's not because the Hammond City Council is mean. It's not because Mayor McDermott doesn't care. It's because it's way bigger than that. And it's people down in Indianapolis that refuse to even let these types of issues. They refuse to even let you vote on it. By the way, funny thing is, if you guys voted on it, if we let Hammond vote on it, just Hammond, I don't know if it would pass. I think it would probably fail. Even if they let you vote on it, but they don't even let you vote on it. They won't even let you vote on it. That's a bad place. And that's what they did in Indy, and that's what they're doing here. They don't care. It is a shame. They don't care, though. There's people like you that are affected. They don't care, ma'am, and I'm sorry.
There's handicapped people that are affected as well, who relied on
I agree,
that bus
totally.
service to take them to the store and get their food.
But there are, and now I'm going to need help. Bob, Brian, grab a microphone, RBA members. There are, for the extreme case, and this is the one that gets me also, okay? We have a couple that lives in North Hammond or Robertsdale. I know it's this part of the city. Both parents legally blind. And this couple, I think about them all the time because they moved to Hammond because of the buses, and now that the buses don't work, they probably feel like we've let them down, okay? I think about these people and how do they get around? And I know that there was an exception made in the RBA. Brian, could you help me out here? For the extreme cases like this.
Yeah, the NERC has created a kind of an emergency program for all the people who are in the service for the disabled. So for those of that need that service, they should be contacting NERC. They use the list of from the RBA of the riders and contacted them, and we're trying to get. We had a meeting today that was discussing this, and we're trying to get more information out so people understand that service for the disabled is still available on a very limited basis. NERC is trying to get more extensive funding from the federal government, but that is not in place yet.
Bob, anything to add? These guys are both Hammond representatives on the Regional Bus Authority, which was a very fun job towards the end. Huh? Dial a ride, thank you. North Township, dial a ride, that's an option. But obviously, there's a waiting list when it comes to things like that. I know, so, and as Brian pointed out, in the extreme cases, I don't think the wait is nearly as long. Is that true?
I'm not entirely sure about that.
I know that in the extreme cases with the severely disabled, it's easier. But ma'am, I think this is a pretty accurate representation of what's going on. I'm really sorry. I really am. I think that at the time, I go back, we made the right decision. We helped the RBA go forward, and a lot of other people let us down, let you down. I don't know what to say. Sorry. Thank you.
Brian, can you give me the number for NERC? You got the number for those people who need
762. Hey, thanks, Kerry.
Yeah, did you hear that, Councilman?
636060.
Yeah,
My dad used to-
that sounds right. Thanks, Carrie.
6303. I think, yeah.
I know it's 66.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. What's that? Yeah, sure.
I know you're tired of hearing from me, but
No,
I
that's
got
all
a
right.
big mouth. Anyway, going back to the North Township, I was of the opinion when I first started using them that they were only for medical appointments. Then I find out that they'll take you anywhere from point A to point B, even if it's just to buy groceries.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if a lot of people know that or not.
Yeah, and I have a feeling they're probably getting burdened now with the
No,
RBA shutting down.
I think it's underutilized.
Oh, yeah, and you know what? At the same time, I always thought, I mean, by the way, I think Frank Mervan is an excellent trustee.
Oh,
And I'm not criticizing Frank at all. He is an
great.
excellent trustee. He's done a great job,
Yes.
okay? But we would spend so much on buses, and then my common complaint that came to us, and I know the councilman heard it as well, is those buses are always empty. And then I'd see a dial-a-ride bus go by, and they're taking people everywhere, and there's probably more people on the dial-a-ride than there is on the real bus that we're spending big money on. So we had all these competing systems, you know? I think dial-a-rides...
You know, since the other
RBA.
transfer, yeah.
Right. The dial-a-ride's probably seen a dramatic increase in the ridership, so
That's a very nice way to go, though.
good. I appreciate that. I'll pass that on to the trustee. He may be watching right now. Okay, any other questions on busing? All right, let's go. Next question.
Mayor, we have a thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very much for making a Make-A-Wish come true and making my daughter a rock star for a night, singing with Foreigner last Friday night.
how nice. I know who that was. Thank you, Debbie. That was a neat, and I don't know how many people are aware of what happened when Foreigner played last week. Sometimes we get rock stars that come here and play, and they're real jerks. And sometimes you get really nice peoples. But Foreigner, I want to tell you, these people were so wonderful. It was literally probably the nicest experience I've had with the band. They worked with a local choir, Books, Brushes, and Bands, and specifically asked them if the kids would perform with them. They had to go through a week camp to learn the song. It was one song they sang with the band, and they were right here with Foreigner during the concert, and they sang, I Want to Know What Love Is. And it was really, really cool. Foreigner was in there, and they took pictures with them, gave all the kids guitar picks and drumsticks and everything. And for those kids, it was a great moment, and my son was one of the kids in the choir. It was a great moment to see Tommy up there, and the funny thing is, Tommy doesn't even know who that Foreigner is. He comes home, I'm Foreigner, or something like that, and but it was really neat. And I think it's really neat to see the kind of stuff that we're doing here. I think the pavilion is going to be a big part of this part of the city for a long time, and you're very lucky to live here. So,
Mayor, I have the number to NERC.
sure.
219-763-6060.
Okay, 6060.
And I guess to end Mayor's Night Out, we have a gentleman that would like to thank you.
All right. Compliments
Mayor.
are welcome all times.
Mayor, my name is Mike Grady, and I moved here 8 years ago, and I've been a big supporter of you. I
Thank you.
listened to you and Tony on WGN.
Thank you.
You know, and I want to commend you and the entire administration here. I moved here after retiring from government service in law enforcement after 32 years, and I want to commend Brian Miller as chief of police in the fire department. About 6 months ago, I was almost a victim at Nuco's, and one of your lieutenants saved my life. The guy pulled a gun on me right in my face, and due to quick, swift action on his part, it didn't happen. It saved my life. And you pulled up on the scene. You were working a car, And due to the swift action on the fire department's part, I had a heart attack, and a paramedic saved my life, and they took me to the to St. Margaret's, and I'm here to talk about it.
That's great.
You know? And I just recovered from cancer June 11th. I'm cancer-free. I've been a big supporter of yours. I'm a
Thank
good
you.
friend of one of your relatives, Jerry Brown.
Oh,
You know?
Uncle Jerry.
And I'm kind of an amateur musician, so this is kind of an appropriate place. I've been going to the music events here. We're here. I brought a support group here. We've been to the music events, so this is kind of an appropriate
Awesome.
place to
Thank you.
you
That's really nice
for
of you.
all the things that you've done during the economic hard times, people.
Yeah.
This mayor here is an amazing man. With God's help, I know, you know,
Thank you.
you've done a lot of
blushing.
accomplishment. Keep up the good work, fellas
Thank you.
and ladies.
How nice of you. Thank you. You should follow me around and give that speech everywhere. That would be great. Sure.
I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
I was there at the VFW for you.
Thank you.
At
That was a good night.
You know,
Thank
it
you.
was.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. Any other compliments? I'm just kidding. Oh,
Mayor,
Councilman Higgs, I think the compliments are over.
Oh my God! Believe it or not, you're doing a wonderful job. But,
Thanks, Councilman.
I just have one request. At 6109 Wallace Road, for over a year, I've been trying to get a tree cut down. We have an ordinance in place to get this tree removed. The neighbors are complaining the tree is completely dead. The house has been removed, and whatever we can do to get the tree down.
Is it in the Parkway, Councilman?
It's not in the Parkway, but it is partially on the property. The problem is, that's why we did the ordinance.
It's an abandoned house, or is it somebody lives
The
there?
house is gone.
Okay.
It's just a dead
Oh,
tree that
okay,
may
it's like
fall
a-
at any moment.
Phil, is that your property? And then I read about this one. I got a letter, and it's close to another house,
And
right?
I've been trying to get it torn down for over a year. If
Where
we
we at,
can
guys?
possibly get this tree torn down, it would be
Okay,
a great
Pat?
help to me and the neighbors.
Thank you, Councilman.
I've actually explained to the councilman 15 times that I cannot touch that creek. That ordinance is not developed for the park department to go on private property. It's on private property. You know, I believe, and I told him before, he's got to go through code enforcement. They're the ones that can do that. They can actually lien the property owner on that property. I can't. The
No.
park department cannot go on private property.
That's the kind of stuff they did in East Chicago, and guys are in jail right now. So we're very sensitive about private property, okay?
That,
Now,
that was
but-
sidewalks, but
But, I mean, this is private property issues, but I understand the councilman's point of view that this is a property that we own as a city, right?
I'm pretty sure we
No,
own the
it's not.
property.
It's
We-
just
we
a-
may not own the property. The thing is, we tore down the house and put a lien
I got
on
you.
the property owner.
Kelly? Could somebody get, this is the head of code enforcement, Kelly Kearney?
Tom, this is kind of a gray area in that ordinance. The house has been demolished. The tree's on private property. I don't have anyone to cite or lien, and park department can't go on the property.
Maybe this is something the council needs to take up, just to clarify the language in the contract. I mean, Councilman, I understand your frustration, but you have to appreciate our point of view is we're the ones that are actually going on the property and taking care of this. And I know Kelly has kids that he wants to see grow up, you know, and I do too. So like we have to be careful when it comes to private property issues.
Well, we can define.
Maybe that's what we should do,
define it in
Councilman.
the ordinance.
Right,
That's fine, but no one's getting back to me and saying, "Hey, this is what needs to be done."
Would that make things easier? Tom, what do you think?
It would help me out a lot because the tree is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
But this is
going
a special
anywhere.
situation, Councilman.
Yeah.
So maybe we should clarify in cases of properties that are, you know.
You know what, Mayor, what we probably need to do is turn it over to Chris Cantar, see if she can get a court ruling in our favor, and then we can go take it
Okay.
down. So.
Councilman, do me a
Whatever
favor.
you
Do you have
can
this
do.
written down, Councilman?
Yes,
Could you
I
give
send
Michelle?
letters to your
I know.
office.
Could you? I'll follow this one up tomorrow.
Thank
Yeah,
okay?
in fact,
That's all I
I just got a text that if it's, we can look at it, Kevin Smith and Chris Cantar said they'll take a look at it, and if it's a danger, they might be able to do it through the Unsafe Building Act. So they'll have to go to court, Councilman.
Thank you,
but
Councilman.
They'll be able to
We
work
will
it
follow
out.
it up
I
tomorrow.
appreciate it
I
because
promise you.
it's about as bad as the roaches
That-
on Eden.
Yeah. Okay. Next. Really? Look at that. Okay, I want to make sure. I want to look around because I know we probably have some issues I want to make sure you talk about. Mylan? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got T-shirts. We could throw them to you, or I could just actually hand them to you. I mean, I'm used to throwing T-shirts here.
I wanted to
If any of
ask,
you ask bad questions, I'll throw it hard to you, okay?
I wanted to ask one more thing.
What's that? Yeah.
Could you expect, like, I brought up, like, the entranceway to the alley. Could I expect some action to be taken on that, or was I just talking to myself tonight?
No, did you write that down, ma'am?
Yeah, we discussed it.
That's why we have you write them down, so we can follow them up. It's like a
So
letter.
there'll be a follow-up.
Yes, ma'am. You'll get a response back from us, too.
I also wanted to say,
I was trying to hit Councilman, I'm sorry.
I also want to say that I think you're doing a terrific job, too.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. And thanks for coming. And you know what? Mayor's Night's about complaints. Oh, sorry. This is the fun part, actually. Neighbor, there you go, ma'am. See? You did earn it, too. Okay. In the back? Okay, anybody else have anything? College Brown, do you have anything? Hey, do me a favor, Chris. IT never gets questions at Mayor's Night. I saw a guy on a ladder and a camera that we've been trying to activate for a long time. Could you update the crowd on what's going on with the crime-fighting cameras?
Sure.
They're not necessarily in this part of the city at this point, but this is something, if we get the pilot up and running, we could expand it, so.
That's correct. We currently have 4 sites being installed. Most of them are in the 3rd District. Calumet and Carroll, Lyons and Tapper, behind Harrison Park on Lyman.
Oh, sorry.
The cameras are being finalized, and we're tweaking them now. They should be up in the next 2 weeks.
Sorry. T-shirts. So the long and the short of it is we're going to have crime-fighting cameras at 5 locations through the city.
Four
Four.
at first, and then we're working on a 5th location.
Those locations are Lyons and Tapper.
Lyons and Tapper, Calumet and Carroll, and Lyman behind Harrison Park.
Yes.
And Sibley and State.
Sibley and
I left that
State.
one off, yeah.
4 locations. Councilman Higgs is very interested in this. I got a letter from him on this also. They're going to be up and running, Chris, in your opinion?
About 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And I saw him on the ladder today working on it. I figured that was good news.
Yeah, it's very good news.
Either that or somebody was taking our camera. So.
Well, hopefully it's one of our guys.
Right, I was hoping the same thing. They didn't have a marked truck. All right, anybody else have issues they got to bring before? All right, anything in the fire department going on? You all good? All right, just making sure. Jeff? Okay, Pat, anything? Alexis? Anybody? We're not used to being done this early. Gary? In our spare time, we're nighttime comics also. Kathy, recycling? Okay, all right, good. Who we got over here? Bob, Carmen's hiding, Brian, all good? Dan? Of course, the city
I'm
engineers.
surprised nobody complained about the condition of Indianapolis Boulevard through from Atchison Avenue through Whiting and through Hammond.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, we are working with NDOT.
Okay.
I think we got a deal going where we're going to be Whiting, Hammond, and NDOT are going to rebuild it, and we're going to do it a first-class job. We're going to do ornamental lighting and all that. It should go to construction probably spring of 2014.
Good news. Okay, Councilman, everything good?
Everything's good. Just want to mention another addition to the Pulaski Park area. We now have a new Frisbee golf course in Pulaski Park, new cages, a new course, new pads will be put in shortly, and we're getting a lot of people using the new course. It's really fun and it's really nice, and when it's complete, it will be tournament ready as well. So I want to thank the Parks Department.
It looks really nice, by the way.
Doesn't it? The Parks Department, Brian Cummings, Pulaski Park Neighborhood Association, who got the grant dollars to make that happen. So it's there for your use. Come out and enjoy our park. It's one of the nicer, newer parks reestablished in this district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. And Bob Lindy has some news from the Controller's office that may be of interest to Hammond seniors.
If you're on the Lake County Senior Disabled list for your tax exemption, you receive a tax rebate from the city of Hammond every year. And I wanted to let you know that those rebate checks are going to be going out hopefully mid-October to coincide with the November tax bills.
And the check, good, going out. We've done that program for 9 years now in cooperation with the Hammond City Council. Hey, to the gentleman with the really nice, thank you. Here, you guys both get one. Sorry. Okay, Mylan, Port Authority.
Real quick, thank you to the Port Authority staff that came out this evening. Thanks for the support. And Jill Gajewski, thank you very much for helping with the park department, getting everything set up out here. Thanks.
You know, Jill's working very hard. Jill's over there in the golf
She
cart.
is. Thank you, Jill.
Over 3,000 tickets sold for the triple play. Thank you very much, Jill.
Mayor, real quick, the Port Authority just signed an agreement with a contractor. We're going to be assisting Councilman Mark in putting in, taking out the old tennis courts at Forsyth Park and
Nice.
putting in some new ones. So that project will be starting probably within the next 2 weeks.
Great.
So it's real good news for us.
Great. Phil, anything?
First business in a very, very long time should be opening at Woodmar Mall next week. It is a Subway.
I don't even like saying Woodmar Mall. It just reminds people.
Well, this is progress. Even though it's small, it's progress. So it's a good announcement.
As soon as you say that, like 3 hands go up in the air. Thanks, Phil. Jim, anything? Okay, Jim's tired, wants to go home. And last but not least, with our police chief. Thank you. New cars on the street. Undercover? Yeah, I saw that one already. Yep. Outstanding.
Mayor, Linda would like to say something from the library.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Good.
Also, I wanted to thank Jill also because they gave us some very nice splash pad passes for our summer reading program, which was very much appreciated.
Great.
Just wanted to say that the library has a family essay contest going on. It's to celebrate Hispanic Latino Heritage Month, but it's open to everybody. The theme is what does the concept of familia or family mean to me? Details are on our website. Also, our friends have a lot of fundraisers going on. One of them is tomorrow. If you eat at the Wendy's at Woodmar Mall, between 5 and 8, the friends get 15% of all of the sales. So help us out, eat at Wendy's.
Great.
I think that's about it.
Thank you, Linda. Dr. Unger, how's it going? He's hiding in the crowd today. Everything all good in the sanitary district? All right. Guys, thank you. Without you coming out, Mayor's Night would not be successful. We've done this for 9 years now, so thank you for supporting us. We have our next Mayor's Night out. It's going to be on October 24th in the 5th District at Gavitt High School. See you guys then. Thank you all.